Is up, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, day traders, closet swing traders? Hope you guys are doing absolutely fantastic. Hope you had a great weekend and are ready to go. We got earnings season. It is here. It is among us. So, really, honestly, anything that is setting up in the market right now could be very drastically different by the end of the week. This should be a very interesting week in the market. I think two of the big names, the bigger one probably Tesla, but then we have Netflix as well. I think we also have like AT&T and I don't know if 3M's coming up this week and maybe next Monday, something like that. But there's definitely a few stocks out there to go into report, going to be a little bit volatile. So we'll have some opportunity to make some plays on that. Otherwise, let's take a look real quick at the weekly, how we closed. We've had a little bit of a pullback. So we created one new lower low on a weekly basis. We came back up. We did retest that first original breakdown. So that's already been retested. We have a inverse hammer from last week. So we'll see what happens there. We also got this good looking hammer to maybe save us off of a decent moving average. And we are gapping up slightly for a weekly basis. We're just inside candles, so nothing too crazy on a weekly. We are definitely in the zone where the bears came in, sold off, and I don't know. Wave count wise, this is a 1, 2. This looks like maybe this was a 3, 4. Could have one more roll down potentially. That would be a good 5 wave count. And it definitely looks like we're just channeling back and forth. So it looks like we just are building a little bit of almost a megaphone type looking pattern instead of a channel. Channels would be a little bit more direct, but this looks like it's widening as it goes. So we'll see what happens on the daily basis. We've got the SPY inside day again, just a little bit of a gap up from Friday. Interesting spot that we're opening. So we are above the 431.82. That should provide us a little bit of support. Targets would be 438.93. That's a much bigger move. That would close the gap that really hasn't been closed from over here yet, although we did try. We're opening right at a support resistance. So for the next 26 minutes, we'll see where this thing wants to open. But the key number I'm looking for is 433.64. If we could get a little bit higher, we're looking at 434.95. And then again, support, I'm looking for somewhere down at this 431.82. Otherwise, relatively speaking, most things are gapping up. So not a free fall that Friday was providing us. And maybe we could find a little ground, but right now, yeah, everything looks choppy-ish. Qs, let's start with the weekly on the Qs. Same type of pattern on the Qs. Qs look like they tried to make a break. So we have a little bit of a downtrend here. We gave it our best shot to break. The bears came, slapped it right back underneath that downtrend. So that's going to be an important one to watch. Otherwise, the Qs, we actually have a double bottom still sitting there. This was the initial breakdown. That was kind of the retest into the Qs. So I don't know. I don't know how sustainable the rallies are. But on the daily basis, a smaller gap up than the SPY. We do have a lot more room on the Qs though. So I'm looking at support. I got one level pretty much again where we're at right now from back on October 9th. This looks like 366.16 to the downside. We probably got 365.34 from Friday. And then we do have a decent amount of room to the higher side. So we still got 369.27 if we want to come back and retest all that. We'll see. I think this 369.68, that could be a little rough to get to today. I think I'll put best bet on a good day, probably about 369.16. So I'll call it 369. By the time we hit 369, I'd be a little bit worried. This looks like a little bit 1, 2. That might have been a 3 on the breakout. 4, maybe we could get one more pop longer term. Again, on the daily, we did break out of that downtrend, and I'd probably have the downtrend shifted a little bit, probably to about there. So we did break out of the downtrend on Tuesday. We held, we retested. Now the question is, can we continue to close above this downtrend? That would all make this a retest, and that could give us that one more pop for that, what looks to be wave. I don't know. I want to say wave 5, but I'm looking at this thing again, going, all right, if this is our 3, this is our 4, this is our 5, this is our ABC. So this could actually be our start to wave 1. If this is our wave 2, then the next move could be pretty fast and furious in a bullish direction, providing again that we can hold that little bit of a downtrend. I don't know. TLT, so that one's actually gapping down today. So TLT is not responding well. Again, it's gonna be very, very difficult for equities to gain any type of grounding if TLT does not find any stable bids. The one thing I could say about TLT is, I mean, we're still inside of this retest day. We're back at that support. This would be a good spot for TLT to bounce. And to run bullish, targets on this would take us up to about 87.51. If we do decide to break down a little bit further, next spot, 85.93. If that breaks down, we're probably looking back at 85.18, and then it could get very, very ugly again. But right now we are still holding. We've had pretty much 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days in a row in this range since that little bit of a gap up. All right, let's see that one on the weekly real quick. Yeah, just kind of hanging out. Just all of last week was just inside week, and maybe we have another one. It's possible. But Lucian's in the house. Good morning, Bill, Cindy. Lauren wants to take a look at Riot, RIOT. Riot has a little bit of gap and go. I think Bitcoin was doing decent. Bitcoin. Bitcoin had a pretty good weekend. So since Friday, it's run just over $1,000 on Bitcoin. Bitcoin is at a pretty key resistance. The next one up above that is 28,324, and then we're probably looking back to the 30K range for Bitcoin. If we could continue that momentum. Riot does have, looks like a little bit of head and shoulders. That was a good retest spot, and now you are getting that gap up. I would say there is some resistance above us. You have a little bit of room to go. I mean, that would take us to 990. You do have a moving average coming in. I believe that's the 20 coming in to give you a little pressure to the downside. So I don't know how much this one wants to run. We'd have to get above that 20 first, and then that gives us an opportunity at least for 990, 992-ish. And then if we have a really good day, probably $10.16. The other one that might be moving, I haven't really checked it out, but Mara, I believe, came out with some reports that they mined like a whole nother block of Bitcoin, something like that over the weekend. So I would expect this one to get a little bit of a push. Same type of deal. You still got the 20 above you, but you have a lot more room on this. This is $8.60. Some kind of support down here at 812, but watch both of them. I kind of want to lean toward Mara over Riot. I think even like fundamentally, Mara's a little bit better, but they should move relatively the same. Definitely beat up, definitely coming down, nice little higher lows. This is also a gap and go, but I would say either one is good. I think Mara might just have a tad more room on it to run if it's going to. Let's see. YouTube Blade wants to look at got Richard Jet in the house. Good morning to you. Jennifer, Jean. Ola's in the house. Cute critters. Good morning. We got mRNA. Ugly. They could use a booster. Yeah, that's not a great looking gap whatsoever. It is technically a retest gap from Friday. I don't think this one comes in and does a full-on retest. So you're trying to find out where this thing actually wants to reverse. I would think probably if this thing does have any shorts taking profits, which there should be. I mean, this thing has been in a downtrend for quite some time. Now you're gapping down, breaking new levels. I think somebody's going to be profitable to the short side in this one. That's just saying, okay, let's take a little bit of cash off the table. Maybe we get up to like 96.83. That would be the spot for me to watch to go short. You are definitely breaking some key levels, so does it have potential just to open and And fade, I think it, I mean, it does. I just don't know. I mean, really, the Bears just want to hold on, not take anything. I wouldn't even mind like if it gives me like at least a green candle to the downside, because that's a pretty horrific gap. I think it could come up. I'd want it, at least I'd want it to come up a little bit higher to get in short. You do have some level of maybe support down here as well, 93.51. And then the next level to the downside, 89.35 ish, somewhere in that zone. So you are starting to approach a little bit of maybe support. Also coming off that peak right there. Yeah, I'd want this thing to run up longer. I don't know if I'd want it to. I just completely lost the chart. I don't know where it went. There it is. Yeah, I don't know if I'd want this one to. We're actually in a bearish TTM as well, according to TradingView. But even the last 3 days were all selling, so immediately we're down. Longer term, we're down. Give me something a little bit higher. Come in for a little bit better retest. 96.88 would be a much better spot. Definitely want to watch though. Very, very interesting gap. That should be fun to see how this one plays out. And Smith isn't asking more. Do you, Ivo? Good morning, Paul. What is happening? Can you please look at Carvana, CVNA? Mara, by the way, I don't know about riots. Let me, since we were just talking about that, and Carvana reminded me. Let's check out FinViz real quick. Just to check the short float on Riot. I know Mara has a good short float on it. I don't know if we're trapping as many people for it to really take effect. Yeah, Riot's got an 18% short float on it too. Let me check out Mars real quick. Mara has a slightly higher short flow, 24% to the short side. Either of those ones could run. And then CVNA, let me see. That one was historically high. 37% short float. Okay. People would not be liking this one. Let's see. Not really doing too much though today. You do have the support of the 200. So if you want to take a stab at it, I'd have some kind of stop, maybe like 32.87. Some kind of stop around here. And then I don't know where you would get in. I mean, with that amount of, you're not really trapping any shorts on this one. So the short effect, the short float will not really play into it too much. But if we're going with the bullish gap there, so maybe if you catch a retest into, let's go a little bit higher on this one. It is a gap and go technically just inside this candle, and then definitely inside this one. That one broke down, and you got the 200 saving it. So if you were to design a trade, it would be something like that if you're going to take a shot at it. But I think the short float is actually going to work probably against you on this one, because you're not trapping the shorts. They're just sitting there and they're feeling pretty comfortable. Where Mara and Riot, okay, you are kind of squeezing a little bit of the shorts. Crowd, CRWD. There's another one, gap up right into resistance. This would be a good risk reward to the short side. It has obviously been pretty bullish on the breakout. It's already run a lot. This would be almost another. It's going to be tough to short this one because of that pretty big run. I'd almost want to wait for some kind of breakdown to come in. But other than that, if you want to take a shot at this one to go bearish, you're looking for somewhere around the 187.09 zone. Would be a decent looking retest. Also, if we open right here, you're still at Friday's VPOC technically, and then throwing your stops up here. I think this one's, I don't know if this looks probably like a wave 3 potentially. I think this one probably fades back, and buyers are going to step in probably around 176.23 on this. So see if this one does want to rotate. So if you want to play it to the short side, this is not giving you a horrible risk to reward setup. And then if you want to go long, I'd be patient till 176.23 to start looking. And then if this thing comes back and hits 171.71, That would be another spot to look. Let's see, Lululemon. What are they doing? Did yoga pants go up in price? Upcoming earnings, yada yada yada. Lulu stock was up 6.2% after the S&P Globals. NC said that Friday that the athletic apparel company will replace Activision. Lulu's getting added to the S&P. That is quite the gap. Quite the gap. Nothing really stopping it. I would say that if you are bearish on this thing, you really don't want 405.49 to break down, maybe a little bit higher, 406.74, because there's nothing. You are absolutely going to get squeezed up to 457.02. There's zero in the way of really stopping that. So this is where the bears should apply pressure. Technically, this is a retest gap from Friday, but that is a massive gap. You do have a little bit of resistance up here. This is gonna be a tough one to mess with, I think. Right now, risk to reward is to the short side. Playing that retest would make sense to me. Getting your stops anywhere above 404.93, that would make sense. You've had some decent days of buying, 1, 2, 3, some inside days, 4. So 4 days of buying with a couple days of just resting. But that is quite the gap on that one too. Even all of this into this gap, I think this one probably fades. From a longer term perspective, yeah, if this one comes down, it might be an opportunity to get in. I wouldn't buy Lulu. I mean, I just wouldn't buy Lululemon up here whatsoever. For me personally, I don't know. But that is at least a good resistance. You've had a whole, I mean, even going back further than the last 4 days, you've had some decent buying in on this thing. People going to be profitable. You got one area for the bears to protect somewhere up there. Really coming down, buying this thing at 377.87 with that volume. That was really the location to do it. So I think there's probably a lot of bulls just sitting there waiting, and that would be your spot really to buy it again. I would have to look more for the fade on this one, providing that we stay within those VPOCs. DG, Dollar General, new CEO. They couldn't wait like another day. Grotesque. Pretty sweet gap. We were highly considering this one for the 10% play, the 10K challenge. Like on this day toward the close, it was definitely being considered. I thought we could drop maybe another $1 in this thing. I was like, nah, they'll drop $1. We might be able to get this at 100. They've told me no. They said no. You will pay out price. But yeah, Dollar General still relatively cheap. I still like it around this range. I can see this thing back to 130, honestly. So it does have some room on it. You could get some continuation. Still inside day from Friday, so you're at the very high end of the range. Watch to see what happens if we break out of the high from Friday. Otherwise, look for some kind of a pullback, maybe into this probably 111.15 zone. That would be a good spot to try, but really, really good gap. I do like this continuation play a lot. Question is, where do we buy this thing? How excited am I to take this breakout after it moved 10, 11% in one day? Pretty excited. I'm going to put it pretty high on the list. That's what I'm trying to say. But yeah, if we could get a pullback, that'd be great. Otherwise, targets to the high side, we got one little level that should hold us back. We've already kind of hit that one though, so it should be a little weaker. That's at 112.72. Next spot on this one would take us to about 116ish, 115.92. That's probably where we stop today. I don't see another 10% day today. So if we can get to 115.92, that's 2 really, really good days in a row. Again, if I could get that pullback, that makes that risk reward a lot better. VSTO, nice gap, but low volume. VSTO. Vista Outdoor. I believe that's advertising company. Ooh. Oh, I was zooming out to find this yellow line, and I'm not happy where I found it. Was this no earnings? Vista Outdoor falls on sporting product unit sale, annual forecast cut. So annual forecast is cut. Pretty negative catalysts. Pretty weak gap. That is also a gap and go. Tiny little bit of resistance down here. So if you're going to get the bounce, the target will be 27.67. That'd be your next opportunity to go short. Yeah, everything about this one looks short. I think it acts as more of a retest though. You've got some levels down here. So again, $23.35. That's a little bit of a longer term hold. 24.31. You have another one, 25.79. And then looking for like 26. So we are at a little bit of support. That is a pretty major gap down. I think this one does get bought up. Look for targets at 27.73. And that would be my spot to look to go short back onto that one. JP Morgan. That is quite the inverse hammer that we got on Friday. That's not. I mean, I don't like to see a hammer like that and say I'd love to go along on this company. Out of all of the banks, JP Morgan is probably one of the strongest. So in a longer term perspective, I have no problem owning JP Morgan. I actually do like them a lot. Not really so much for the bank, but for my portfolio. We've already had that bounce off the 200. That buying got a little extended. That was, I believe, on earnings. Yep, that one came in on earnings, where I believe they beat on both fronts. Yep. So they beat by 9% earnings per share. They're making so much money off interest. It's crazy. It's crazy. But you do have a gap and go. Technically, just inside day, you are at resistance. I would think. I don't know where we end up closing today on this thing because it is. I mean, it was good news all around for JP Morgan. But you have this little resistance. I think this one fades, and then maybe a little bit later in the day, look to see if you could buy it somewhere around 148.53. So if you're going to short, not really a lot of room to the downside on this thing, but it comes down. I'd probably look to go long. I think. I'd probably would rather be long. There's no real bad news on JP Morgan. But you got to watch that candle, that volume. If that starts to break down, it gets a little bit more ugly. And even that, though, it's still support 145.95. So nothing too crazy in any direction. But that was just that one candle alone. That's a tough one. And then you have that selling and open at resistance. Most likely fades. The question is to where. That is a hammer of all hammers, I think. All right, let's take a look at BAC. Did that one have the same hammer? No, that one just gapped up and died. This is technically no, that would have been in gap and go that failed. See if we can get continuation anywhere on any of those banks. Ally Financial, it's kind of hanging out toward the bottom. All right, let's take a look at Tesla. Tesla, I believe, had a downgrade / upgrade. So I think Piper Sandler came out and I think they threw a 290 target on it, I believe. Let me see if we have their targets. I don't know if this are. I think they downgraded it to two. It was either 290 or 390. Regardless, either of those were above current trading price. So they did get a downgrade to a higher price than it is now, just to make things as confusing as possible. But you got Tesla is breaking down for right now, a pretty key volume area. I think we have earnings on Wednesday on this one. So watch out for that. You can get some crazy volatility. I think this one comes back in for a retest that open. So watch 251.19 and then see if that wants to hold that. I don't think it does. And we probably end up coming back down to this 246.61. So that would be my first target. If it comes a little bit lower, I think coming into retest this hammer would make some sense too. Although we did retest that already. I don't know if Lou's here, but we talked about this on the one-on-ones for an extensive amount of time. We're almost back to that range we were talking about, which is somewhere right here where we're opening today. So, but first up, I do think this is probably bullish out of the gate. This is Tesla. I mean, if we get one red candle based on the downgrade, I think taking the break of that one would make sense. The only thing again is you do have some kind of resistance 251.08. AMD. Do I have my trading sheet open? Yep. Okay, good. AMD is again kind of coming back. We drew a fib on this one. We're probably sitting at we hit, broke and closed right below the 50 or on it. Let's see, to the penny. Yep. So we did close below the 50% retracement of that last move. We have a little bit of a gap up. The gap up is taking us above the 50% retracement. Look for some kind of resistance at 105.88. But if this is all just a pullback, and then I can see us probably getting back up to like 108.10. So it might have some room on the bullish direction. Even throwing some stops here right underneath Friday's low, 104.76 could make sense. You do have a moving average to hold that up too. And then either get stopped out and try it again at 103.86. But right now it's a decent sell-off, and probably first target would be 106.74. If that breaks, and I'm back to this 108 range. So that would have a little bit of room on it as well. I'm missing any other tickers, anything else that you guys wanted to look at? Take a look at Microsoft, MSFT. That one's got a gap up into some resistance. That's a much better looking gap. The bigger resistance on this one is 333.43. So watch that. Netflix, which has been pretty astonishingly weak lately, still opening below key resistance. So that's going to be a struggle, boss. I'd stay away probably from that. LUV. Take this off. I mean, these guys are just in the gutter. They're just yeah. Oof. Flip this to a monthly real quick. What, I got a minute left, 30 seconds. Yeah, there's nothing stopping this thing. On a monthly basis, I mean, we could probably see $16 again. Probably see $18 again. And I think we could probably see 1504 again. Yeah, look, I'm starting to get a little bit of chop around here, $24.26, but all of this is relatively weak. So I think they come down a little bit further still in a longer term basis. But that is the morning opening bell. Make sure you guys on YouTube and hit that like and subscribe. But unfortunately, at this point, I do got to disconnect. You guys have been absolutely incredible. You are more than welcome to join us. We do this every day from 9 a.m. till 6 p.m. Just check out reallifetrading.com. We have all access pass. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Take it easy, guys.